Welcome to A Song of Ice and Fire Symposium. My name is Nav.
And I'm Harmit.
And this is a Game of Thrones. Chapter 11, Daenerys. In this chapter, Daenerys gets married to Khal Drogo. And that's pretty much what happens.
Yes.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. And let's get right into it. How are you feeling, Hermit? How do you feel about this chapter?
This chapter made me feel a little sick inside. I was like, I don't know. I don't want to read this. I'd rather go and do my chemistry homework, But we pulled through. We got through the chapter.
It's the kind of things that makes chemistry homework seem appealing.
Yes.
I bet Daenerys wishes she could do chemistry homework instead.
Yes.
Yeah, this chapter, I've been kind of looking forward to it in the sense that I knew we would have a lot to talk about, but reading it is just as uncomfortable the 10th time as it is the first time, so
yeah,
it's not really an easy chapter. Okay, all right. Do you want to do your... Let's give you 60 seconds this time.
Okay. Let's see
Even though it's technically one event, but there's various random things that happen.
Okay. Watch me get to none of them and get stuck on a tiny detail.
We'll see. Usually that's actually kind of helpful for me, because if you get stuck on tiny details, it's like, oh, that really stuck with her. Like when you thought that Jon was adopted, and I was like, wait, adopted?
I don't know, though. It's not even the stuff that's stuck. I guess it is the stuff that's stuck with me, but it's so random. I feel like it's not what, I don't know.
Yeah, there's not really a method to it. It's just madness, but okay. Yeah. All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, we start the chapter, and the first line's literally like, oh, they get married. And I was like, oh my god, they're already married, what? No event? Okay, no. But then, turns out, now we get a flashback, kind of, to a couple days before, and Viserys is just kind of whining, and they're all around, they're at, the Khal's manse. So the Khal, went with his people, and so, Viserys is being a douche, and he's like, when will I get my castle, and everything, and he's just mad, and that carries on throughout the whole wedding. He's just mad about everything, and he's like, oh my god, I'm not as powerful, I'm the dragon, you're gonna wake up the dragon. That's his entire vibe, the entire chapter. Okay, so then they get married, or they're getting married, and, people die, and people get raped, and it's awful, and weird, and disgusting, and then she gets gifts, and then they're married. And then she gets a horse. Oh my god, she gets a horse. This was the only, oh my god, okay, this is okay 55. Part of the chapter. She gets a horse. She gets a horse.
1 minute. Okay. Really? Does she get a horse? I didn't know that.
Okay, in that case, that was what stuck with me.
You spent 37 seconds talking about Viserys and how mad he is.
'Cause he annoyed me.
No. See? That's stuck with you.
Yes, fine. It's what stuck with me. He annoyed me. And that's something that, I was like, okay. Another reason, that's one of the awful parts of the chapter that can maybe be controlled later on. I don't have much hope for him, but maybe, maybe. Because he's already been through awful things, and if he's still awful, what else can he go through to make him better? Is going through good things gonna make him more awful or better? Probably just more awful, right? Anyway, moving on.
I don't know if there's any redemption for him, really.
Yeah, I don't know.
At least it doesn't seem so at this point.
I'm really hoping he gets a redemption arc.
Really? You want him to be redeemed?
I want all the characters to have a redemption arc.
Okay, all right.
So far, I don't hate any of them yet.
I thought you hated Viserys.
I strongly dislike him.
Wow, you are
strongly.
I can just full out say that I hate this guy, but okay. You can strongly dislike him, whatever. Let's get started at the beginning. So this chapter, the first line, it tells us that she is getting married. Yes. The line exactly says, Daenerys Targaryen wed Khal Drogo with fear and barbaric splendor in a field beyond the walls of Pentos. For the Dothraki believed that all things of importance in a man's life must be done beneath the open sky. And, the first words that are not somebody's name are fear and barbaric.
Yeah.
That kind of sums up the wedding. Although, this whole Dothraki culture is a big point of contention for a lot of people because they are, clearly not white people and they're being portrayed as barbarics. And, there's the people that argue, oh, it's based on historic tribes, the Mongols or the whatever. So, they used to do stuff like this. That's why it's okay. But then there's people like, oh, why aren't the white people portrayed as barbaric? If you think about it, we saw, in the first chapter, Ned literally chop off a guy's head. How is that not as barbaric? There's this certain sense, the way it's portrayed, it's like this certain sense of honor. Like, I had to cut off the guy's head, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. I think it was also, I was thinking about that too as I was going through this. I was like, dang, the way that they're being represented. But then I was also thinking about it and I was like, I guess it's also, it's not just I guess to argue from, what's it called? Oh, to be the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that and I was trying to grapple with that as I was reading it too. I was like, why? And the only thing I could convince myself of was okay, well, this is from her perspective, right? And she's supposedly a royal. So to her, and Viserys, anything that isn't royal would seem barbaric. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but she grew up on the streets.
But but then Viserys is still
she's being sold by her brother. That is not barbaric? I don't know.
That's pretty barbaric, yes.
Yeah, so
but in the previous chapter with her, they were she was I never thought my brother would come to this. So that is barbaric to them, but it's in his mind he has no choice.
Yeah, but it's it's a choice the author made, and we have to consider, again, I don't want to be that person. Actually, I totally do want to be that person, pointing it out. George R. R. Martin is a very white, very straight, very male person.
Very male person.
I don't know why the very, but he's cisgender and he's the most, if you wanted to point to an old white guy, he's the perfect person to point to.
Oh my God.
So, and he's writing this way. So I think it's just important for us to keep that in mind as we go through this story, because even though it's we're seeing it through the eyes of Daenerys, who is, new to this culture, the real fact is we're seeing it through the writing of George R. R. Martin. So just gonna keep that there.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Khalasar has gathered outside the city. There's 40,000 warriors and countless women, children, and slaves, as you do, And this is making all the people in Pentos nervous. They're like, oh no, there's this huge, army horde outside our gates. Yeah, they can attack us at any time.
Yes.
And they're talking about this stuff, and they're mentioning, they're talking about Daenerys as if she's not even there. Oh, better get her married. She better do this.
Yeah.
This better that. I don't know.
I'm okay, people, calm down.
Yeah. And, Viserys, as you said, is just where is my kingdom? How come I don't have it yet? Why? Yeah. Why don't I have it? Mm-hmm. And, Illyria is the Khal has promised you a crown, and you shall have it eventually.
Okay, but I was thinking about... Okay, I guess this isn't... I just realized it's not a thing anymore. You can cut this out, I'll just say it. I remember when we learned that, when Daenerys was, kind of, observing their culture throughout the wedding, and she was like, the Khal didn't say a word to me. We don't have a common tongue. And I was like, oh my God. So... And I was like, okay, well, what if Illyrio's, lying about the deal, since they don't know what they're saying, only Illyrio knows what the Khal is saying. Oh. How do we know that the deal Viserys has been told is the true deal? That doesn't... It's not like they can understand what he's saying.
That's definitely a possibility. But, Daenerys has been, one of her gifts is a human being who is going to teach her the language. So it seems that eventually, once she learns the language, if that's the case, she'll probably figure it out that they were lied to eventually.
Yeah, but
it'll be too late.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He just needs all the riches and like the stuff he's gonna get from making this deal, and he already has those.
Yeah. And it's what's his name? Sir Jorah Mormont. He's also backing up Illyrio in his promises. Like, the Dothraki are true to their word, and you'll get what you need eventually. And so, does he seem like somebody we can trust? Do you know?
A little bit more than Illyrio.
Right. I mean, he did also sell people, so I don't know. I don't know what our standard for trustability is, but he did also sell people.
Our standard in this world is a lot lower. There's a really
he
low
only
bar
sold a
you
few people, whereas Illyrio is constantly selling people, so he's definitely worse, because, I don't know. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. They're all terrible people. That's just the whole thing.
That's the bar?
Yeah. Okay, anyway, so Illyrio may be tricking them. We don't really know. And, at one point, Jorah is like, a lesser man can ask the Khal for a favor, but he can't demand it. And, Viserys is like, I am a dragon. The dragon does not beg. And Daenerys is like, there are no more dragons. And then from there, we kind of transition into the fact that yet that night, she dreamt of one. Do you remember her dream?
Yeah, this was disturbing. So, her dream was that her brother was, like, assaulting her.
Yeah,
and then
he's hitting her, hurting her. Yeah. And she's naked and afraid.
Like and then he turns into a dragon. And then
he doesn't turn into a dragon.
Oh, no, he leaves, and then a dragon appears, right?
No,
and then there's like fire.
Wait, I have the text of it right here. Let me go through it, and then you tell me what your interpretation of it is. Okay, so Viserys is hitting her, hurting her. She's naked and afraid, and she's running from him, but she can't seem to get away, and she falls, and he's like, "You woke the dragon," and he's like screaming at her, kicking her, and all of a sudden her thighs are slick with blood. And then she closes her eyes and is just like whimpering. And then all of a sudden there's a hideous ripping sound and the crackling of some great fire. And when she looks up, Viserys is gone, as if burned by the fire. And there's a dragon, a great big dragon. And it raises its head and meets her eyes. And she wakes up afraid and sweating. That's what happens. So this dragon, it seems like, eviscerates Viserys.
Yes.
Viserys does not turn into a dragon.
Yes,
so the dragon's
true,
on Daenerys' side. So what is your interpretation of this dream?
I have like random thoughts floating around, because I feel like,
tell me all the random thoughts.
Okay, because with dreams, it's never just like, this is the reason, there's so much, right? It's like your entire subconscious going crazy. So, firstly, I feel like, okay, when I was first reading it, I took it as like it's like what's worse, Viserys, who's pretty awful, or the dragon? So it's like, oh, I better listen to Viserys. Like, this is just like her whole life, right? Like, it's like, hey, what's worse, the dragon or Viserys?
What does the dragon represent, though?
Well, first, I was like, it's just Viserys if things don't work out. Then, I was like, okay, maybe the dragon is the call, and she's like, because the dragon that he keeps talking about, she's like, what the fuck? Same with the call. She's like, what the fuck? I'm terrified. And, like, she keeps crying in front of him.
So,
like, she's terrified of him.
Khal Drogo is gonna eviscerate Viserys.
Yes.
But she's still gonna be afraid of him. Like,
well, she woke up, right? Before, like,
she woke up when the dragon looks into her eyes and she's afraid, so she wakes up afraid.
She wakes up afraid, but she didn't, like, he eviscerated Viserys, he met eyes with her, like, the dragon looked at her, and then and then she just wakes up. Like, she didn't, like, nothing else happened.
Okay.
So
right.
I don't, like, she doesn't.
But she was afraid when she looked at the dragon. So if the dragon is representative of Drogo, does that mean that she's just going to continue to be afraid of Drogo?
Well, we don't know.
Okay, that's
she
what
woke
the
up.
question is.
Well, we don't know.
But she was afraid when she woke up.
She was afraid when she woke up because that was the last thing that happened.
Okay, all right.
She is an
okay,
unreliable narrator. She didn't
dream.
let anything else happen. She woke up. The dream ended. It's over.
Okay, all right. The dream ended. Now let's move on. So then it's okay. This is how we transition from the dream to the wedding. She says she had never been so afraid until the day of her wedding.
That kind of hurt, but yes, that is true.
So the ceremony it's a whole day thing. It lasts from dawn till dusk, which, I mean, they have a lot of energy to party all day.
Yeah.
Not even all night, just all day.
Yeah.
So they're, seating up on a stage of some kind, and Viserys is seated below them. He's not very happy about it. And every time food is brought up, it's first offered to, Drogo and Dany, and then to Viserys. And every time it happens, he just gets madder and madder.
Just gets sulkier and sulkier. His bottom lip purses out longer and longer. Or farther and farther.
Okay. Well, was that some kind of poetry?
No! No!
Okay, anyway, but yeah. He's not happy. And Dany's not happy because she feels alone, even though, she's surrounded by literally thousands of people, but she doesn't have anybody to talk to.
Yes.
Everybody who can speak her language is sitting far away, and Drogo is, barely paying attention to her, but also just does not speak the language.
Yeah.
So, she's just hiding her tears, trying not to let anybody see. Reminds me of Jon during that feast. She's not eating because she knows she won't be able to keep it down, and she's just trying to keep her courage up. She's like, I'm the blood of the dragon, the blood of the dragon, the blood of the dragon.
Yeah.
The whole time.
And that's kind of like with the dream. She's like, okay, I'm the blood of the dragon. I can deal with the dragon. I can deal with the dragon. I'm the blood of the dragon.
Right.
Dang. She's like, I am the dragon. I don't need to be afraid of the dragon.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, she's trying to convince herself of that, but,
Yeah, it's not quite working. She doesn't have anything to hang on to at this point.
Yes.
So, you want to go from there?
Why are you making me explain the worst parts? And you get to explain all the... No, you're explaining this part. I'll explain the horse.
Okay, but... I feel like I'm just summarizing it. I'm not getting any of your thoughts on any of this.
Okay, well, I'll interrupt you if I have thoughts.
Okay, fine. Well, okay, so some women are dancing, and, they're getting thrown bronze coins every once in a while, and people are watching them until eventually some guy gets up and has decided that he's just gonna, rape this woman who's dancing, because he can.
Because that's their culture?
Yeah. And
that's...
It's very disturbing, and Dany is like, ooh, I don't know if I want. And she just, that just makes her even more afraid of what's happening. Yes. And it eventually leads to, more men join in, and they're, fighting over the woman and killing each other, and apparently a dozen people die before the day's over, so it was a very blessed wedding, apparently.
As they like to call it.
Yeah, this part of the wedding, again, people argue over whether it can be called rape or not. Obviously, to our Western modern standards, it's very clearly rape. But and people argue maybe since it's their tradition, maybe they expect it, or And there's the fact that we have to do this with a culture that is not white in these books. It's just, again, that whole racism. Why are they portrayed this way and not anybody else? At least as far as we know,
Yeah.
Okay, all you're saying is, yeah.
Because, okay, I don't, what else do you want me to say?
what did you think of this part of the chapter?
It annoyed me, and I don't agree with those people. I don't, like,
Which people?
Sorry? Oh, I don't agree with the people who are like, oh, maybe it's part of their culture, maybe they expect it, but that's not, like, okay, yeah, culture is what's normal to you, right? Okay, that makes sense. But I feel like there's a line you have to draw, and this is one of those places. You can't just be like, oh, it's part of their culture, it's okay. I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
no.
So who do we blame for that? Do we blame the characters for being this way, or do we blame the writer for writing them this way? That's the whole... Bring that back. Okay, people are gonna hate me for all the things I'm saying today, but that's what I think. I think the fact that he chose to do this, and this is literally a fantasy series. It is his fantasy. He could have written anything, but instead he wrote this. So even the choices that he makes, it's just good to keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. End of rant. Let's move on.
Okay.
So it's all terrible and everything, and Dany's afraid of the Dothraki, she's afraid of her brother, she's afraid of her husband, she's just afraid.
And then she gets some bride gifts. So
yeah. Do you remember what they were?
Viserys gives her 3 handmaids. One is gonna teach her like the Dothraki language.
Yeah.
One,
the other ones. Go ahead.
I forget what the second one's gonna do, but the third one annoyed me, so I remember it. Third one, she's gonna teach her, what was it? All the womanly facets of love or something like that? Or like the womanly art of making love. That's what it was, right?
Yeah, so one's gonna teach her to ride.
Right.
Another one's gonna teach her Dothraki, and the last one is gonna teach her sex. Viserys is like, she's really good. I and Illyrio can attest to that.
It's both like he's attest to that.
Yeah. He's like giving her, it's like he's giving her a car, and he's like, oh, yeah, it's good. I test drived it. Like, ugh, so gross.
It's kind of gross. Anyway,
it is not kind of gross. It is totally
gross. It's very gross. It is very disgusting. Moving on. Okay, and then Ser Jorah's like, it isn't a lot, but I'm a poor guy, I can't really give you a lot. So then he gives her books with histories and songs of the Seven Kingdoms, which was actually a pretty cool gift.
Yeah, and she seemed happy with it.
Yeah, she was like, I thanked him with all my heart.
And she was like, finally, something that's not a person.
Right? And something that, like, is like, I don't know, I liked that it was, like, academic. That's just, like, my personal preference. I was like, oh, cute. Like, books. I guess books aren't academic, but, like, you can... Out of the gifts she's been given, that book is academic.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good gift.
Yeah. And then Illyrio's gift was cool. I like this. I like all the, like, everybody having their own animals that's coming up. That's cool throughout the series.
Right.
Like, them with the wolves.
dire wolves and the lions. And it's their sigils.
Mm-hmm. And, lions?
The Lannister.
They have a lion?
Yeah.
Wait, did
remember they called
lion?
Jaime? No, they don't have a lion, but their sigil is the lion.
Oh, no. I meant, like, people, like, getting their animals.
But these are stones, basically. They're eggs that have turned...
but it's, like...
Also, you never actually said what she gets. Illyrio gives her 3 dragon eggs that have been turned to stone over age. Anyway. Okay,
but they still, like, react a little bit. So could you be like, they're technically still alive? Like, I don't know much about dragon
What do you mean
anatomy.
they react a little bit?
Well, I forget what it was, but they were talking about it, and they were like, oh, they, like, react to the heat, or am I completely messing that up? Did they not,
think
like,
you're just making that up. They were, like, because they have, like, they're shiny. She was saying that it shines in the moonlight or whatever. That's what she was saying.
Okay, that's lame.
Yeah.
I thought they were, like, reacting, and I was like, oh my god, they're still, like, living after so long, and that's why that was cool to me. I guess they're just stones.
The whole thing. No, it says very clearly that they're just basically stones now, but since they're a representative of her house's sigil, Illyrio gave them to her.
All right.
And, they're very expensive gift, but he can afford it because apparently, we learn, he collected a fortune in horses and slaves for his part in selling her to Khal Drogo.
So maybe that's his motive, but maybe there's something more. I don't
Yeah.
know. But that feels like a good enough motive for someone like him, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Also, I wanted to ask, maybe I completely missed the explanation of this, which I probably did. What's a blood rider? They mention it like 50 million times in this.
His bodyguards, or
Okay.
like his advisors. So the Khal is number one, and I the blood riders are kind of similar to the King's Guard in a way.
Okay.
Like in Westeros, the King's Guard.
Yeah.
So something along those lines.
Okay. So they give her three traditional weapons. They give that that sword that we saw them use earlier and everything. And the thing is, she can't even take these gifts.
Yeah, because she is just a woman and these gifts are for a warrior. So she gives them to her husband.
Then why not just give them to him? Why go through this whole
because
thing?
They need to. That's the traditions, or we have to do it this way,
bruh. Okay,
because then it'll be like the blood riders didn't give her or offer her anything.
Well, they didn't.
Yeah.
Bruh.
In essence, they
really
okay,
they whatever.
But,
they did, but she wasn't supposed to take it.
Have you been to Indian weddings?
Yes, I know, I have, but
it is all just for show.
Do you think exposure to something isn't going to make you more and more mad every time it comes up?
Yeah,
just because I've been exposed to it.
I was like, keep those weapons and kill those people.
Yeah, literally. Okay.
But
moving on, she gets other various little trinkets, and then
including, hold on. Wait. No, let's not get to the horse. She also gets a gown made from the skin of 1,000 mice. I'm not even honestly, to me, I have never worn any kind of fur or hide, or I'm vegetarian, so are you. Yeah. So it's any kind of hide is the same to me. It doesn't matter to me if it's I don't know what people wear the hides of, if it's a wolf hide or if it's a mouse hide, whatever. All I could think was 1,000 mice. How long did it take to sew that up? That's a lot of effort.
Oh my god, all I could imagine were mice's tails, and I was like,
well, they won't put the tail.
Well, I know, but it's all I could imagine. That's why I said imagine, Nav.
Yeah, well, this was another way of being hint, hint, these people are barbaric.
Well, no, I feel like that's not... Well, to me, that's not...
Well, Illyria was like, this is a great gift, basically.
Okay, yeah. I guess with that. But just with the gift, I wouldn't call that barbaric, because that's still,
Yeah, but it's showing them as something other. We wear the hide of just one animal, not 1,000 animals. Whatever.
Oh my.
So
okay, and then okay, cool. So best for last, Khal Drogo. What was it? Was it? I'm probably making this up. Was it purple, or what was purple?
Nothing.
Or
was purple.
Okay, never mind. I'm imagining that. Okay, so Khal Drogo gets Daenerys a horse. And so he leaves, and she's like, oh, now I'm even more alone. And then he comes back and he has a horse, and she's like, wait, oh my god. And she's like, oh my god, this is cool. And then, so far we've been learning about Illyrio told me to do this about this gift. And now suddenly she's like, what do I do with this horse? And Sir Jonah's like, okay, well, you have to ride the horse.
Not Jonah.
Sorry, whatever. Sir Jorah is like, you have to ride the horse. And she's like, wait, what? But then once she gets on the horse, it's all magical and perfect. And she's like, and she jumps over fire. And after she rides the horse, she loses track of, the entire time she's been like, oh, there's a couple hours until sunset, blah, 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 blah. But now time is lost. It's just her and her all-powerful horse, and they're just gliding through the air like it's nothing. There's no resistance. This is a perfect vacuumless world.
And anyway, she says for the first time of the day, and maybe even her entire life, she wasn't afraid.
I know! That was
okay.
Anyway.
I don't want to put a damper on your excitement. Just one thing that did bother me. When he, like, puts her on the horse, he's like, he lifted her up as easily as if she were a child. And I was like, she is a child! Sorry, that was really loud.
That's true.
She is a child.
That's true.
She's literally 13. I was like, oh.
But in this culture, that's the one cultural thing where I'll be like, okay, I guess she's not a child in this culture.
No, but she is still. Even...
yes,
see,
I know.
Like,
child is scientific. She's still a child, but in their
scientific.
Culture, she's not a child.
Okay, well,
think about
then
it.
why do we draw the line at, oh, she's no longer a child when she's 13? But, you know, why can't we say the same thing for, oh, they just, you know, rape people? That's what they do. That's their culture.
Because being 13 versus raping someone those are two completely different concepts.
Okay, all right. We'll come back
There's
to
an
that
issue
at the
of
end
consent.
of this episode.
There's those are very different. I don't know why you're asking me to compare
I'm so glad
those.
you said the word consent, because I want to talk about that later. For now, she's very happy with the horse. She says that Khal Drogo has given me the wind, which I'm happy for her. And he says that the horse is silver for the silver of her hair, which is actually kind of a thoughtful gift, you know. Mm-hmm. He went and picked a horse that had the same color mane as her hair or whatever. And when she says he's given me the wind, he smiles, and it's like, oh, maybe this dude isn't as terrible or whatever. I guess that's what we're supposed to be getting from it.
Yes. And
then the sun sets, and then they have to take off to consummate the marriage.
Yes.
So now, he eases into it, and, you know, Dany eventually says yes. But now let's talk about consent, shall we? Okay, few things. You were saying that being 13 versus being raped when you're 18 is a matter of consent. I say, is a 13-year-old even able to give consent?
Not to someone like 50 million years older, no.
Yeah. She's 13, he's 30.
Yeah, so no.
So is her yes even real? Like, does that count as consent? So first
that, and then that, okay, no. First of all, that one thing already, it's like, okay, no, that's not consent. Then, to add on to it, it's like you said, like, she eventually says yes. That's not a yes. That's like a, okay, sure.
Even if she says, okay, sure.
That's not a yes.
And is coerced into it. The fact of the matter is, she doesn't really have a choice. Yeah. Like, consent is only possible if you can have a choice. The fact is, she doesn't have a choice, because if she says no, what's gonna happen? He's gonna stop, and Viserys is gonna let her be? Like, no. She's literally been, like, before, as she was leaving to go, you know, off with Drogo, Viserys is like, make him happy or else, basically.
Yeah.
So, even though she says yes, and, you know, a lot of people agree that this, like, her saying yes at the end of this chapter is supposed to be, like, her finally coming into her own and taking control of her destiny or blah, blah, blah. All I can think is, she doesn't have a choice, so she has to say yes. It's maybe not as brutal or whatever. I mean, how can you just, like, it's still rape, because she's 13, he's 30. She is literally having to say yes on the threat of death, probably, you know? Yeah. So,
I guess people just argue that, because it's, like, I guess their argument is, it could have been worse, you know?
Yeah.
That's their argument.
There's no justifying that. It's just,
I know.
No.
I was expecting worse, too. I was like, oh my god, I'm terrified. And Nav told me to, like, brace myself for this chapter. I was like, oh my god. Excuse me.
It was terrible.
It was terrible, but it was terrible. It made me feel awful, but the only thing was, it wasn't, like, the worst
It
thing,
wasn't
the
violent
worst.
In the way that we might have imagined it.
It wasn't, like, physically violent.
Yeah, but it was still rape. I would still say that is rape.
You're right. You're right.
But yeah. So, if anybody was wondering what our thoughts on consent and racism were, there you go.
Oh my god.
Well, actually, this is good because, when we started this journey with the podcast, one of my things was to view the series through like an intersectional feminist lens. And it's important to bring up all these different points and consider the arguments. Even though I am pretty set on my beliefs.
Yes.
But yeah, so it was very terrible. Obviously, it could have been worse, but that does not mean that this wasn't terrible
that wasn't
and
awful.
It doesn't count as terrible.
I think I'm just hoping that because it wasn't as, like, physically violent, maybe Dany, maybe Dany will be okay. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I just want Dany to be okay, but I feel like she's not gonna be okay. Because I feel like this isn't even, like, you know what I mean? Like, she was terrified for the consummation of their marriage, but I feel like this isn't even what she's supposed to be. Yeah, she has her horse. But I'm sure this isn't even, like, what she should be scared of. Like, do you know what I'm saying? I feel like there's more awful coming to her life. I don't know what, but I feel like there's more awful coming. I mean, her brother's pretty bad, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's lived with him for her entire life, so.
So, yeah.
Yup. Well, okay, so I'll just bring in, like, a bunch of the arguments that exist out in the ether. I don't know why I'm saying it like that.
Okay.
So, like I was saying, a lot of people take this, yes, that she says, as her coming into her own and taking control of her life. I think, it may be, like, having her horse and, like, that being something that she can hold on to. I feel like that's something she can draw strength from. Mm-hmm. Again, I do not think this, is consensual, but moving on from that. People also say that, they were really surprised by Drogo's demeanor in this chapter because he's quote-unquote gentle with her, and she's coming from this abusive relationship with her brother to maybe something that is not as awful. So maybe, people are like, oh, Drogo is kind of great, actually.
I don't know if I'd say, I think for the culture that he's in, you could argue that, but that doesn't make him perfect. That doesn't mean that what he's doing
still
isn't
not
right.
An abuser. Yeah.
Right? But like I get where they're coming from, and to an extent I agree, but you can't just like write that off, right? Like, it's not black or white. It's not he's a great person, he's an awful person. It's like, no, for the culture he's in, you can argue that he's, towards the good side, because like he's literally like they're literally the thing, like, oh, you do everything under an open sky, like at weddings and other feasts and stuff, like they're literally exposed to people just being like flat out raped. So I guess with all of that, you could argue that he's like better in some sense.
I guess it also depends on how their relationship develops from now on.
That's true, because
we've only seen them together for one day.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. I guess we'll find out.
Okay, that's all we can say, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so how do you feel about the book at this moment? We're like 1/7 of the way through.
We are?
Yeah, because it's like 70-ish chapters.
Dang! Oh my god. I don't know. I don't really have any strong opinions.
But, like, are you at least not dreading it, or...
No, I don't dread it.
Somewhat interested? Like, do you want to know what happens to these people?
Yeah, I want to know what happens, but if I didn't find out, I wouldn't be too upset. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't care enough yet to be upset if I couldn't... Like, if I, like, okay, please...
If I took away this book from you, you wouldn't be like, oh, no, but I want to read.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I'd be like, okay, sure, like, I'd like it if you could give me my book back, but,
Okay.
like, I'd be like, Like, I'd have to be like, do I really want to read this? I don't know.
You would probably just go and watch the show.
I feel like that would be worse, though.
It would be worse.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, you're not quitting anytime soon because I'm not letting you.
All right.
You just gotta hang in there. Trust me, things are gonna happen, and then you're gonna be like, wait, why do we have to wait a whole week to read the next chapter?
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So your predictions regarding this whole situation was that Drogo was gonna demand more, but apparently it looks like he liked Dany enough to say yes right away. And we seem to have found out what Illyrio's intentions were. Mm-hmm. Okay, what are the predictions we can ask you about?
Illyrio's gonna stab him in the back.
Like Dany and Viserys?
Yes.
How so?
Oh,
like he lied about the whole deal?
Yeah.
Like that? Okay.
Yes. I think that...
So you don't...
Maybe Dany's gonna... I think... Well, okay. So her options are Viserys. Her options are Viserys. Currently, her options are Viserys, and then Khal Drogo. So right now, if we look at the horizon, Khal Drogo's probably a better prospect. So she's gonna be like, "Hey, I don't. Wait, where am I going with this? I literally had a cohesive thought. Where did it go?
Like he may have lied.
He
may have lied, but I'm still gonna stick with this marriage."
Yeah, I think she's gonna want to stick with the marriage, but Viserys is gonna be like, okay, first of all, they're below us because they're not royal. That's gonna be Viserys, and then Viserys is also gonna be like, well, he didn't give me my army anyway. Like, do you know what I mean? It's gonna be like she's not gonna want to go back to Viserys because Viserys is probably gonna assume it's her fault instead of thinking about like Illyrio,
right?
So she's not gonna want to she's not going to want to, ruin her marriage or whatever, but I feel like Viserys is going to want her to, because he's going to be like, I didn't get my army. I didn't sell you for this.
You don't think he's going to get the crown he was promised?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a dick, so... he's an asshole, so... I'm actually trying to move away from gendered swears.
I see. Everybody has an asshole.
Yeah, that's literally my reasoning.
Yes.
Okay. All right. What else is there? What do you think Dany's gonna be?
Oh, okay. What do you mean Dany's gonna be?
Like, is she gonna be this, passive person the whole time that has stuff happen to her, or is she actually gonna do something?
So far, she's gonna be... Well, you said that people say this is her, taking her destiny into her own hands. So maybe that's a clue for me that maybe she does something up ahead. Well, I feel like next chapter we should see her. She's probably not gonna do much. But maybe, chapter after that. Because the thing is, we see these people after, a lot of chapters. So there's some character development in between. So maybe in, the next...
she's the only, perspective we have into this part of the story.
Yeah.
Because everybody else, we've got, all the Starks.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see her eventually. Hopefully she'll do something.
It would be terrible if, her story just ended here.
Yes.
So do you still think that this, her perspective is still our, insight into Viserys' journey to his throne, or do you think it's more of Dany's story now?
That's interesting. I think it'll be her. I think it's a conscious choice to have her as the narrator instead of them switching off or something, or I feel like it's not just gonna be her watching him be dumb.
So it's her story and he's a part of it, as opposed to it's his story and she's a part of it.
Yes.
Okay. All right, now let's go to the next chapter. Okay. We're at 45 minutes. Oh my god.
Eddard.
Yeah, who's that? I don't remember.
Ned Stark.
Is
this his second chapter or third chapter?
Second, I think. The first one was when the king came to Winterfell.
Right.
So what do you think is going to be going on with Nedard?
I mean, they left for or they were like on the brink of leaving for the south.
The last time we were in Winterfell was with Jon, who was leaving for the Wall, and everybody else was getting ready to leave for the south.
Yes. So, I don't know if I think it'll start, like, maybe they'll be traveling and something bad happens. So we're either gonna see them, like, traveling and Ned's gonna be like, we've been traveling for 50 years, you know? and then he's gonna be like, oh, like, I miss Catelyn, like, you know, I wonder how Bran is. Like, you know, I feel like it'll either be, like, him on their journey talking, or it'll be, like, he's there, he gets to the south, and he's like, this is so different.
So he's gonna be in King's Landing?
Yeah, or yeah, either one.
Okay. All right.
But if they're traveling, something bad's gonna happen. If he gets to King's Landing...
In his chapter, something bad's gonna happen? If
he's traveling, yes.
Okay. Bad regarding who? Like, bad for him, bad for the king, bad for the kingdom? Like, what?
Probably bad for, like, him and his kids.
Okay. So, not a very happy outlook for the Starks, as always.
Winter is coming for the Starks. I don't know what this voice is.
I don't know either. Okay. All right, we're not going to play the game today because we
are over time.
Way over time. Let me see if there's anything else to quickly go over. No, I think we're good. Just as always, I would remind everybody to reach out to us if you have any feedback, any input on our various social media. So that's at Pop Culture Symposium on Facebook and Instagram, at Pop Symposium on Twitter, and on our website, it's popculturesymposium.tumblr.com. And finally, you can email us at popculturesymposium@gmail.com. I think that's everything. Until next time, farewell, my friends.
Talk to you later.